and gentlemen.
Welcome to the show. It's Movie Wire time. Oh, the Movie Wire. Bring the firing squad. Bill, Justin. Give the finger or laugh or smile. It's time to find out. No more waiting. So here we go. The Sultan of Cinema. The gumshoe of review. Here is Justin Henson. Let's start the show. Let's go.
Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to the season premiere of Season 5 and this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We've got a big show this week with 3 new movies to review, with all 3 playing in theaters right now. This week on the show, Human Nature, Act Casual in the Disney Pixar film Hoppers. Here Comes a Motherfucking Bride in The Bride. And finally, Mommy Knows Best in the new horror movie, Dolly. We've got a lot to cover this week, so let's jump right in. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows, what? A roar and a bursting of flames. The Movie Wire podcast. You need people like me.
The Wire.
And here we go.
Macy, a young woman, is abducted by a monstrous figure, intent on raising her as their own child. In the new horror film, Dolly.
Wow. So beautiful. Oh no.
Someone's art project, maybe?
All the way out here?
That's weird.
Don't miss the film critics are calling.
Nightmare fuel.
Hello?
A truly terrifying killer.
Hey, are you okay?
A wonderfully violent backwoods slasher. The scariest movie yet in the Great Chainsaw Massacre tradition.
You're a new doll. You're gonna have to play along. Play along. Play along. Play along. Play along.
Mother.
What did you do to me?
Knows
We gotta go.
best. Dolly. This film is not yet rated.
A couple goes into the woods. Couple finds a forest of creepy baby dolls. Couple still decides to continue. The couple get, when it comes to a horror formula, get what they deserve for being stupid. But at the same time, we wouldn't have a movie if the characters weren't stupid. At least we find out how stupid they are within the first 10-15 minutes, so we know what to expect. Macy and Chase, played by Fabi and Therese, and American Pie Sean William Scott, decide to go on a hike, where Chase is planning to propose to Macy. And a wrestler, Maxie Polar, puts on a porcelain mask, roams the woods, and you can put 2 and 2 together on what happens when a pro wrestler puts on a dirty dress and mask in the secluded woods. Now, Dolly was directed and written by Rod Blackhurst, who directed and wrote 2024's Bland Night Swim. Here he teams up with writer Brandon Weevil to deliver the same bland kind of formulaic script, where the driver of the story is where Dolly is going to pop up next. What is she going to do with the shovel that seems to be what a witch's broom is to a witch is a shovel for Dolly? Blackhurst merely takes this idea to attempt to keep the audience engaged with wondering how he is going to merely gross out the audience next. And it becomes tiresome, repetitive, and almost almost boring. The shining point to Dolly is the look, the feel, tone, and sound editing that does add some haunting intrigue, where Blackhurst almost takes some ideas from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, especially when it comes to having females in peril. When it comes to the direction, we can tell that Blackhurst is a better director than he is writer. He does take full advantage of his setting along with cinematographer Justin Derry. We get light pouring through the trees, but still keeping the environment dark and gloomy. The house of Dolly is grotesque, but has the right lighting hues to have it feel like a glimmer of hope of escape from Dolly for Macy. We can see some very strategic direction here and even better post-production magic. But as the story goes, it falls flat. Maxie Impaler is a decent enough villain to watch. She has the presence and moves in her Dolly getup to make us squirm in our seats. So we have a creepy villain, some decent filmmaking, but again, it is bogged down with a story we have seen so many times before, with dialogue that doesn't want us to follow, no matter how hard our filmmakers try to make the movie look. Even with some familiar faces here with Sean William Scott and Chasing Amy, Mallrats Clerks actor Ethan Suplee can't add anything of entertainment here, especially since the story has Sean William Scott's face a challenge that I won't give away. But when this happens, it takes away the appeal of seeing a familiar face in a horror slasher film. And it leads to almost a little bit of a disappointment that the biggest names are limited here. It almost would have been a better strategy to just get more of an amateur cast for an amateur horror movie. That way there is no expectation from the cast. Since even with the recognizable cast, it doesn't add anything here. In a way, hurts the movie. Since Blackhurst is really relying on the gross out factor to keep engagement, and the movie does have some scenes of ick, but it's just ick versus an audience gasp of shock. Now, the movie does break itself up into chapters that seem completely uneven and unnecessary again, because this is where Blackhurst is trying to compensate for the lack of story to make it feel better or smarter than what it is. Most of the movie is shot inside a house. Do we really need chapters for this? There's no progression or evolution of our characters or the story. We don't get tons of multiple settings. It's a freaking slasher film. It's an escape film. It's a survival film. We don't need chapters because when I would see a chapter number come up, I would just roll my eyes. This just proves the movie doesn't self-realize what it is. Now, if the intent was just to almost be homage to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and do a line of sequels with our Dolly character, I hope we learn from the mistakes and actually do something with this character, because there is some slight potential here. Again, especially with the creepy body language of Maxie Impaler. I can see Dolly in New York. I can see Dolly in space. I can see Dolly does Dallas. Hell, I would even like Dolly versus Dolly. Let's have Dolly Parton go up against this baddie. So many better ideas than what we get here. Dolly does have some decent things about it. It has the tone, the sound. It's a movie for the senses to appreciate some of the filmmaking, even to the body language of Maxie Impaler and post-production work. But you have to get past that, that pesky story and limp dialogue to look further to really appreciate it. But that's where the problem lies. When watching a movie, the filmmaking can't make excuses for why the story and screenplay sucks. I'm giving Dolly 2 stars.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure to check out my reviews for movies that just became available to rent, buy, or stream now.
Now available on video cassette.
Sometimes heartbreak is only the beginning, with Kevin James being left at the altar in Solo VO that hits all the right notes for a rom-com written by guys, and the movie makes that clear, receiving 2.5 stars. Their shift has hit the fan, and if it spreads, you're dead in cold storage that teeters on the fun factor that never really gets there, receiving 2.5 stars. You're not prepared for what's about to go down, and I sure wasn't in good luck. Don't die, have fun. That damn it. It was a lot of fun, receiving 3.5 stars. Revenge brings revelation in The Strangers Chapter 3 that it should have been a revelation to the filmmakers to stop at 1, receiving 0.5 star. The future of criminal justice is artificial intelligence in Mercy, where we spend a couple hours staring at Chris Pratt until we say, Lord have mercy, as an over, receiving 2.5 stars. A hidden life, a dangerous past, a storm closing in is the generic tagline to any other Jason Statham movie. That even for a Jason Statham movie was below par, receiving 1.5 stars. You live here now and return to Silent Hill, which will be the tagline if I end up in hell, followed by an eternity of watching Return to Silent Hill, receiving 0.5 star. Defang the police in a vampire movie that truly does suck, in Night Patrol, receiving 1 star. Discover what's behind closed doors, and just like in my dreams, is Sydney Sweeney in an actual good movie in The Housemaid, that received 3 stars. Volunteers needed in another zombie apocalypse movie that actually attempts a message and is marginally successful in We Bury the Dead, that got a marginal recommendation at 3 stars. Have you been exposed in a movie that tackles adolescent social commentary in The Plague, that received 3.5 stars? It's not the size of the snake that matters, it's how long it plans to play with you, in which this movie spends the entire time playing with you thinking it's a good movie. In Anaconda, that received 1 star. They're back with a twist, and the biggest twist is that it surpasses the original film in Zootopia 2, that received 3.5 stars. A story about the people you love and how to survive them in a movie that was so bland and misguided that I even forgot I reviewed it in Ella McKay, that received 1.5 stars. This Christmas, you better be good or Santa's gonna slay, and Silent Night, Deadly Night that appeases the gore lover with adding some nice character touches in Silent Night, Deadly Night, that received 3 stars. Something's wrong with Ben, he's dangerously close to human in Primate, that is primitive in logic, but who cares, it's a lot of fun, that received 3 stars. 5 years ago, the world ended, and that was just the beginning, and this sequel feels like the beginning that nobody cares about. It's rare for the end of the world to just feel boring in Greenland 2, that received 2 stars. Brendan Fraser plays a washed-up actor who is hired to play a father to a little girl in one of the best movies of the year in Rental Family, that is True Cinematic Soul Food, receiving 4 stars. Are you ready for another SpongeBob movie? You should be, for the SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants. That surprised me with the amount of heart a SpongeBob movie can have to receive 3 stars. Inspired by a legend, bound by a dream. Our filmmakers may have had a dream, but it definitely didn't inspire in Song Sung Blue, that received 2 stars. First Hunt, Last Chance, and Predator Badlands, which was a fun addition to the lore without showing us all the cards quite yet, receiving 3 stars. But for the love of God, no more fucking PG-13 Predator movies. And finally, an epic World War II thriller based on true events in Nuremberg, with Russell Crowe and Rami Malek stealing the show to receive 3 stars. You can check out those reviews of my previous episodes, and while you do, don't forget to hit follow or subscribe, and please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony, where Antonio and I cover some of Siskel and Ebert's most interesting, shocking, and entertaining film reviews and discuss if it holds up or if they got it wrong. Back to the Balcony is now available on all podcast listening platforms and YouTube right now. You can find the link to that show in the description of this episode. Now, let's hear from Back to the Balcony now.
Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, two titans of cinematic review. Sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but always captivating. Your hosts Antonio of the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and Justin Henson of the Movie Wire are here to take you back to the balcony.
A 19-year-old animal lover uses technology that places her consciousness into a robotic fever to uncover mysteries within the animal world beyond her imagination in Disney Pixar's Hoppers.
Doc! Oh, I need your help! Mabel, I'm in the middle of class. A class that you are enrolled in.
Sup, Mabel?
Come with me. The traditional methods to understand animals just weren't working. But we've done it, Mabel. We created a revolutionary technology that gives us unprecedented access to the animal world. We call it Hoppers. Huh? We put this into this. Yes, this into this. Mabel, be careful!
Whoa. And they were in the same den.
No. I understand you.
What you doing, lady?
This is incredible!
Hey, what's your name, Beaver?
Mabel?
You want to live here, you better learn pond rules.
What are pond rules?
Oh, I am clearing the rest of the day. Let's hear it for Mabel, everyone. Rule number 1, don't be a stranger. Looking good, Fran. Tom, Laquan, Tamara, Prudence, Pete, Peter, Petey.
Yeah, it's crowded, but we're still alive.
Rule number 2, when you gotta eat, eat.
How did he get a little crown?
That's your question? Fellow animals! The humans have stolen their last inch of land from us.
There he is.
We gotta fight back!
She seems to have become a Joan of Arc type rebel leader.
Mabel, we do not use hopping technology to upset the animal world. She found the button. The Animal Council has been summoned. The shrill beaver is right.
Yeah!
Their treachery ends here, now.
Yeah!
Let's squish the humans.
Yeah! Wait, squish?
They squish us. Why shouldn't we squish one of them?
I really don't think we need to go all the way to squish.
That was intense.
Everybody here getting out of control.
Over here!
Your life is in danger. You must do exactly as we say, Harry. LOL, I mean, Jerry. Drive now. Rocket ship.
This is the smallest big movie you will see this year, and I'm not talking about budget. Disney's Pixar's Hoppers takes a big idea and makes the small ideas even bigger and bolder. And when it comes to messaging, the same theme presents itself. It's the small things that play on an even playing field as the big things, with the big messaging toning it down to be on the same page as the small. This is a movie that, with the idea of big versus small on its most simplistic level that kids can't even understand and adults can analyze at a higher level, while the plot goes into familiar territory that we've seen before: Fern Gully, Brother Bear, Brave, etc., etc. And more specifically, Avatar, another Disney property that this movie fully realizes and even pokes fun at itself in a brief joke to ensure that they're not oblivious to this idea. The film centers around Mabel, voiced by Piper Curda, who we see early on her love for animals by getting into trouble at school trying to free all the classroom pets. That's when we are introduced to her relationship with her grandmother, where we get a quiet, almost silent message of not discouraging the behavior, but channeling it. As Mabel gets older, we see a not-so-quiet Mabel, as we see some arguments with the mayor of Beaverton, Mayor Jerry, voiced by John Hamm, who wants to build a transit system through the glade where Mabel spent time with her grandmother and is home to a vast wildlife, including beavers that maintain the order. When the animals disappear and Mayor Jerry's transit system is on pace to be completed, to stop the project, Mabel must bring back the animals or a singular beaver. That's when Mabel discovers that her school professor has created a program where they have created robot animals to be used as avatars to study the animals. But Mabel finds this as an opportunity to bring back the animals to the glade. And yes, we again have seen kind of the concept of this before. It's a silly plot, it's a reused plot. But our Elio and Luca writer Jesse Andrews has his innocence to him through his dialogue, which I praised in Elio. There's a message to his dialogue through relationships and strategic character development that grows in our character's bravery through morals. The dialogue doesn't break new ground, but it's a level playing field through cutesy moments to stakes that we really do care about through our characters. One of the things I appreciated about Andrew's screenplay, we do have the conflict between Mayor Jerry and Mabel, but it stays mostly just the conflict driving the story. We are introduced to another antagonist that I will leave out for spoilers, but we have our protagonist and antagonist that doesn't deliver the big versus small message through characters. It's small versus small in a world that is bigger than all of us, while utilizing characters like flying great white sharks. Yes, you heard that right, and it's very fun. Along with bears, snakes, etc., etc. These scary animals are never prominent as a stereotype villain because of how they have been portrayed before. The film appropriately treats animals as one. They all have their different survival instincts. They both have their different stakes in survival. It's the small animals that have their time in the spotlight in this film. It was refreshing to see this type of focus where we don't have apex predators as the main villain because they're big and scary. The movie's messaging uses all the elements to never contradict the main message and doesn't confuse the two U's. The two U's of understanding and unity, with understanding always having to come before unity. The movie, we can get into the weeds of corrupt government, having a voice, protect the environment, teamwork, etc., etc. But Andrews is smart enough to know we have seen all that before. And although sub-messaging are always present, we can see it in front of our eyes, but there is a bigger message to be had. And the balance to all of it never throws off the pacing. This could have been another movie like Brother Bear, Brave, Ferngully, but this is almost a hybrid of all those catered to a current audience and time. It's funny, heartwarming, thrilling at times, and it looks utterly fantastic. And you know, I can nitpick, I can be the crotchety old man and say, we don't need thrilling action scenes in animated movies. That's overdone. We don't need cutesy characters. But here, it's utilized extremely well. This is a Pixar movie that really does try to appease everybody. Does it do it flawlessly? No. As we get to the climax, there is a sense that this movie is trying to do too much, and it feels a little bit rushed. And we sacrifice a little bit of appropriate time that we could have had for a villain that we can understand on a simplistic level, but this villain is introduced as something that should feel bigger, with even a tad more emotional stake. And this is where the messaging is still present, but gets a little sloppy, where we ask ourselves the question of motivation of our villain, or villains, if you will. Was it revenge? Was it power? The movie doesn't really clear that up in a neat little bow. It's almost like the film leads up to almost a Shakespearean plot arc during the climax with betrayal, tragedy, power, and even war, but uses just the outline of the formula. But at the end of the day, for every flaw, the movie finds a way of redeeming itself, and there wasn't a minute that I looked at the time. Now, this was our director Daniel Chong's first big movie, who has spent most of his time in the art department as a story artist or storyboard artist, which pays off because he has spent most of his career planning a story, and we can see that through the vision put in to tell this story that could have been too basic or too bloated. The movie's animations present itself where it's a brisk walk through storytelling, where we have moments that could feel like somebody threw paint at the screen and hit fast forward, but we don't get that here. And even in the most fast-moving scenes, it still feels engaging on the eyes. For Chong's first movie, it's absolutely an impressive feat. And if this is what he can deliver on his first go-around, Disney needs to Robert Downey Jr. contract this man's ass now. Hoppers is one of those family movies that will have the entire family smiling ear to ear, while everybody is entertained. Now, I didn't watch the trailer to this movie going into it. I read the synopsis and I was like, hopefully this isn't going to be generic. But one thing was missing is looking at the cast. There were no big actors' names. There was no big voice cast to get people's butts into seats. And I thought to myself, this could mean a couple different things. One, they didn't want to put the money in because they didn't have confidence in it, or they wanted to go with the messaging and keep it innocent and basic. Hoppers didn't feel the need to put big names on their voice cast to give the mirage of a good movie. The cast is modest, the voice performances are still memorable and fun. It appropriately matches the characters. It is refreshing to see not an overly done voice performance. Here, it keeps it simple, and that's the main theme of the movie, is simplicity at its best. Hoppers does so much right, it makes it easy to look past the flaws. And the rushed climax, where we can almost tell that some of this movie was cut to still give us a little bit longer than normal animated runtime of 1 hour and 45 minutes, where by the end of it, I still wanted another 15 minutes. Hoppers is the most fun you will have at the movies so far this year. I'm giving Hoppers 3.5 stars. In 1930 Chicago, Frankenstein asked Dr. Euphronius to help create a companion. They give life to a murdered woman as the bride, sparking romance, police interest, and radical social change in making Gyllenhaal's The Bride.
Can anybody help me? Please. I didn't want this. I didn't want any of this! Please. Help. Help. What happened?
You had an accident.
An accident?
accident, huh?
We dug you up, and we brought you back to life.
Get on stage, and I call her by her first name.
What do you want with a dead girl?
I'm the same. Born from the dead. I am a monster.
Yeah, so am I.
This world is a black hole.
The corrupt are going to see life is here and it's coming to you from the monsters.
Yes! Yes!
Everybody dance! Everybody sing!
Please don't hurt me, please. I'm sorry. What are you sorry for? Did you do something wrong? Something you thought you might get away with?
Stop right there! The dead have got something to say. And I'm saying it.
The bride of Frankenstein.
No, just the bride. Scared?
You know, I am torn with this film. Every time I push my hands to the screen to indicate for the movie to go further or to just move along, it does. And it does so with greatness of visual presence and substance on screen, but then it goes back to its original roots of trying to find its place on what it wants to be. For every time the movie seems to find its footing of identity, it confuses itself with a mixed match of influences from films past that our writer-director Maggie Gyllenhaal confuses with added scenes to attempt to forte messaging that isn't needed. We can grasp the concept of messaging that the film presents, but Gyllenhaal seems to want to beat it to death and spoon-feed us. And I wanted to shout to the screen, I fucking get it. I get it, I do. Let's move on to supporting the message with visuals, performances, and actual fucking dialogue. But this movie is so wordy, so overspoken, it just beats the messaging and beats the experience to death. And every single time something good happens on screen, it's far and few in between. Then Gyllenhaal sidesteps into things that don't matter to the messaging or the movie experience. The Bride is one of those frustrating movies that we can see greatness in, but the execution is flawed. It has visual presence of awe, but then gets bogged down by attempting to hammer a message into the viewer's eyes. Along with having this identity crisis of how it wants to deliver the message, we get the first act that sets up an intrigue with speaking from the afterlife. Mary Shelley says she has a story she wanted to tell after Frankenstein, who centers around Ida, played by Jessie Buckley, who is killed from mobsters, which quickly introduces the morbidly charming our Frankenstein monster played by Christian Bale, that in his demeanor comes across charming as he meets Dr. Euphronius played by Annette Bening, who specializes in reanimation. And this monster comes at us with the assumption that we already know the story of Frankenstein's monster. Misunderstood. And in this meeting where aka Frank wants a companion, this sets Frank and Dr. Euphronius to unearth Ida, to a lack of memory but personality traits still intact. This leads to a lot of ideas where to take these characters that never feel like an organized thought, but rather a vomit of ideas on the screen. The narrative gradually transforms into a kind of an outlaw romance along with an outlaw stream of messaging of ideas, as Ida grapples with her strange rebirth and Frank confronts consequences of his actions. The pair drift into a violent and rebellious existence reminiscent of Depression-era criminal legends like Bonnie and Clyde, which, by the way, would have been wiser to focus on just this, because it was the best scenes of the movie and has the most memorable moments of the film. Their journey attracts the attention of Detective Jack Wiles, portrayed by Peter Sarsgaard, and Detective Marna Mallow, played by Penelope Cruz. And the attention of these two cops come from a spiraling event of them defending themselves. And of course, after these events, R2 are defending themselves after one situation after another, as the pursuit of R2 monsters intensifies. The film shifts between dark humor, gothic tragedy, dark satire, and bursts of musical spectacle. There is a lot going on here, where I can picture Gyllenhaal's massive headache versus how to treat her screenplay, where ideas are just flooded. And we can see that on screen. I don't know how to organize my thoughts, so let's just present it. Rather than presenting a straightforward horror story, Gyllenhaal mixes multiple genres, romance, crime, drama, horror, and musical sequences into a stylized vision of 1930s America. Scenes alternate between moody noir aesthetics to flamboyant musical interludes, giving the film unpredictable pacing. The pacing is all over the place here. 1 minute I am thoroughly entertained. The next moment I'm like, move the fuck on. And this is where the frustration lies. It almost feels like Gyllenhaal is trying to appease a vast audience with multiple styles, multiple genres, but instead is trying too hard and is going against her own vision that she wanted to tell. There's a visual tug-of-war frustration from our filmmaker that we can see on screen, where we can tell from Frank and Ida in a scene where they're in a theater enjoying a movie, to in a car bantering like Bonnie and Clyde, to some visual dance numbers. By taking these enjoyable, pivotal scenes, this is the direction she should have gone. Surrounded ourselves around these pivotal moments that the dialogue is there, the visual presence is there, the entertainment is there. How can we take these characters and deliver a message without pushing it down our throats? And this is where we can tell that Gyllenhaal in her direction said, I felt it needed to say more, to mean more. But it's quite the opposite. Say and do less. And if the writing is good enough, it will tell the tale. Now, there is no argument for me that the movie looks fantastic. It looks great. It's visually appealing, and cinematographer Lawrence Shear does a fantastic job on taking us into this world. And Gyllenhaal has some good shots. There's some great shots. That argument isn't on the table for me. It's about the execution on vision and messaging, especially with the talents of Jessie Buckley and Christian Bale, who both do a fantastic job, especially when we get a scene where the two are by themselves driving on a country road, with Ida having no memory of her past life. This is where Frank has misled her, stating they were engaged in her previous life, in which was a lie to connect with Ida. These intimate scenes are directed fabulously and with fantastic, memorable performances. But when you have this kind of star power, we can tell it almost runs itself in these moments. The bride's ambition sometimes works against it with so many genre shifts, style shifts, and narrative threads competing for attention. The story can feel almost like vomit on a screen. It feels scattered. Moments of memorable visions with stale, intimate moments that feel the need to rush into erotic moments occasionally give way to sequences that feel less connected to the coherent message of intent. The bride's blend of genres may impress viewers looking for something unconventional and on the surface can look fresh. When you throw 5 different genres at a movie, yeah, it can on the surface level feel fresh. But at the end of the day, it also risks alienating those expecting a more focused story. The Bride looks fantastic, has great performances, and at times can be utterly engulfing. But for over 2 hours, I could cherry pick 4 to 5 brief scenes that stood out. And those scenes, if shown as an example of vision to what good looks like to Gyllenhaal, may have had a more laser-line focus on what this movie should have been. Again, there's a lot of hanging fruit of how this movie could have been absolutely perfect. But it gets lost in the weeds of its own ideas. I'm giving The Bride 2.5 stars.
And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Blue Sky, X, Thread, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. And please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you haven't yet checked out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony, make sure you do. Again, the link of that show will be in the description of this episode. Until next week, do me a favor. Make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect to those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film and support your local movie theaters.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.
Let the credits roll.
We say farewell. Join us next time. We'll have more tales to tell.